through the first few ones I had to do.
I know.
Welcome to Freedom Biz Now, the show dedicated to showcasing the best and brightest in business, big and small. Now, welcome the host, founding partner of Freedom Sports and Entertainment and the Freedom Digital Network, from RockVox Studios in Rochester, New York, Mark Washoe.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks, RockVox Studios here in Rochester, New York. And today we've got a special guest on, Dan Mason, General Manager of the Rochester Red Wings. So, Dan, thanks for joining. Really appreciate you coming on to talk about sports and local business.
You got it, Mark. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We've got that official show bumper, everything going, man. So,
right on. Pretty good.
So the first question I had for you is, okay, so what are you doing eating all those hot dogs before you go on the virtual run against the mascot? I mean, come on, you're racing the mascot. You got to be top form for that.
I know. I should have known better. But I was trying to carbo load like the great Michael Scott would. And, unfortunately, I had the same result as Michael Scott did in the office when he pounded a bunch of fettuccine Alfredo before running a 5K. So, yeah, I was hurting a little bit.
So for those of you that don't know, I'm referencing is the Red Wings posted on Twitter just, I guess, a day or two ago that I guess you're promoting a virtual run to support the Rochester community. So maybe I've got a couple of other questions I want to get into kind of when this whole thing started. But just since we're talking about that run, can you share a little bit about what that is and what the idea is behind it? Because I know it started, I think, this week and is running for a couple more days. So can you talk about the virtual run and what that is?
Yeah, we're trying really hard, Mark, to keep our fans engaged and also to try to continue to be woven into the fabric of our community. And we thought that doing something to raise some money to help those frontline workers at our hospitals that, we're all appreciative. Everyone in our community is so appreciative of the work they're doing and the time and effort they're putting in right now. So we came up with this idea. We're big fans of the show The Office, and we thought we would, much like they had a fundraising run on the show in one of their episodes, we thought we would do that and have fun with it, but also, really try to raise some money to provide some meals for those frontline workers at the hospitals. And so fans can sign up, go to redwingsbaseball.com, sign up, run a mile, send us your times, take a picture or a video of you crossing your finish line. And, we'll get a virtual bib out to you so you can have that. And hopefully we'll raise some money and buy some meals for some hospital workers so that we can really show them how much we appreciate what they're doing these days.
No, that's great. And, I know that, so I wanted to ask you, kind of backing up, I guess a month and a half, 2 months ago when this whole coronavirus epidemic started. And, you guys have always been community leaders. And from my experiences working a mile down the road from you up at the Rochester Rhinos soccer stadium, Marina Auto Stadium at the time, we always kind of looked down the street to I guess, Big Brother, as the saying goes. And, you guys were always kind of really, in many ways the leaders, I guess, when it comes to kind of community initiatives. So when this whole thing started, like, what was your initial kind of conversations internally and how you were going to try to maybe, stay connected to the community, just in the onset of it all?
Yeah, and I think, when it first happened, it was our last day of work was March 13th, I believe. That was a Friday. The NBA had canceled their season on the 11th of March. And, so when we, first kind of got back together on a Zoom call, I think it was a couple days, maybe after St. Patrick's Day. When we all left the office on the 13th there, we kind of figured it'd be a 2-week break where we, couldn't come to the office, but, we were at that point, a month away from opening day, with still a lot to do. So we were, still planning on working towards opening day, which at that point was April 9th. Became more clear at that point that it wasn't going to be on April 9th, a week or so after that. And we still didn't know when we would be able to play baseball, when opening day would be. We still don't know when opening day will be this year. And, so I think initially our intent was to keep our fans engaged, make sure that we stay in touch with our corporate partners and our season seat holders and our ticket holders, and just try to keep them as engaged and informed as we possibly can throughout the whole process. But certainly this has gone on a lot longer than what we'd anticipated and obviously what we'd hoped for.
Yeah, and I guess so that was kind of my follow-up to that was, so since when this all happened, and to your point, I think now that we're going into almost 2.5, 3 months into this, how have you guys maybe transitioned or changed your strategy? And I know you're trying to balance community initiatives, supporting the community like what you're doing with the virtual run, but also trying to still engage, like you said, with your fan base, like your curbside concessions initiative. So how is it kind of changing and morphing for you a little bit, now that we're a little bit further along?
Yeah, I think, we're still trying to do some things to keep our fans engaged. We have our Professor Spikes program, which has been a really big success in helping moms and dads keep their kids, occupied and engaged, and give them some educational activities to do, with kids being home and not being at school, finding things, my kids are both older now and can kind of figure out things to do for themselves. But, I know it's tough for parents who are home and are not used to, maybe teaching their kids and having to go through lesson plans and things like that. And just keeping their kids occupied and busy and having fun at the same time. So we've tried to do some programs with our Professor Spikes to give kids something to do that's educational, but also related to baseball. And then, just other things that we're trying to do, just try to keep people thinking about baseball and keep people thinking about the Red Wings, keep them top of mind. We know that from the emails and phone calls and texts and tweets that we've been getting, that people really miss being at the ballpark. This is a time of year where they're normally hanging out at Frontier Field a lot, and they haven't been able to go through those gates for the first time yet this year. So our curbside concession program was an idea to, bring some revenue in, obviously at a time where we could use some revenue, but also give fans a piece of the ballpark. Since they can't come inside, give fans a piece of the ballpark that they can take home, and everybody's got to eat, right? So it provides a service and hopefully puts a smile on their face and makes them think of happier times, hanging out at the ballpark, enjoying some of their favorite Frontier Field cuisine.
Yeah. And so the other question I have is, so from a community perspective, and I know you all have done some things like donate face masks and sanitizer to the healthcare workers, and how are you trying to balance some of the needs that are coming from the community? And to your point, in a time when maybe your own revenue is not nearly what it is, and how are you trying to do your best to kind of manage that at this time as well, and giving back to the Rochester community specifically?
Yeah, I think you have to try to come up with a mix, right? And come up with some different ideas that do both. We had an excess. We had purchased a large amount of sanitary gloves last year at the end of our season. We got a really good deal on these gloves. And, when the whole pandemic hit and it was mid-March and the call went out from our politicians and our healthcare folks saying, hey, we really could use some masks and some gloves, any PPE equipment would be really helpful that the community has. We need it at the hospitals right now. So we had about 300,000 plastic sanitary gloves that we use in our concessions operation. And we knew we weren't going to be playing for a little bit. And obviously it was much more pressing need in the hospitals than it was occupying space in our warehouse at the time. So we were able to make those, donate those to the hospitals. But, this is a time of year, usually we have 5 months to make revenue, April through, Labor Day weekend every year. And the revenues that we make over the course of a season help get us through the off season and get us back to, April or May, until we can start making revenue again. And right now, this year, we just haven't been able to make any revenue. So we're trying to come up with some other ideas. We've partnered with one of our great partners, Recipe 21, who is producing, they typically produce alcohol, and they shifted gears when this happened and have been producing some hand sanitizer, and they needed a place to, distribute the sanitizer. So, we're doing that at our team store and doing curbside pickups on Thursdays and Fridays, so people can order hand sanitizer from us at redwingsbaseball.com. We also have Red Wings branded masks that we're selling, and then a T-shirt, a Hope Has Wings T-shirt, which has an outline of the city skyline embedded in our wings, our Ball with Wings logo. And a portion of the proceeds for that are going to the United Way. So helping us out, but also continuing to play an important role in the community.
Yeah, and I know, drawing from some similar experiences back when I used to work for the Metro Stars Major League Soccer team in New York after 9/11, seems like a lot of your sponsors have kind of stepped up in this time and not only stood by you, but also trying to help you guys come up with creative ideas to kind of stay engaged with the community as well. I mean, is that fair to say that your partners are really kind of working with you through this?
Absolutely. Recipe 21 came to us with that idea. I think they could have gone to a lot of other places. But I think they felt like we were, centrally located. Everybody knows where Frontier Field is. And we've had a great working relationship with them for a long time. So it's worked out really well, and it's providing a service. Hand sanitizer is kind of hard to find these days if you go to the store. And so, we're providing a necessary service to our fans and to the rest of the community.
Yeah, most certainly. Actually, no pun intended, got my hands on some myself, which happened to be a former Rhinos sponsor that I reconnected with when this whole thing started. But that's a separate topic altogether.
Yeah.
But so just as a quick little mini shift of gears, and this would maybe more resonate to the sports industry folks, because it was interesting when I kind of just started doing this a couple of weeks back and wanted to support RockVox Studios, which is in my neighborhood more or less. I said, hey, I want to do like just general business stuff, Rochester based. But I also, because I'm a sports business person, just by nature, I want to do some sports business stuff. So the chance to have a conversation with you where we can kind of mix a little bit of both is pretty cool. So from a sports business perspective, and I've been following a lot of things happening in the sports industry, what are you kind of communicating to your sales reps, both ticketing and sponsorship, as it relates to, there's kind of two schools of thought. Hey, we got to try to keep selling. We got to try to be creative with our packaging. Obviously, the NFL is starting to sell tickets now because they announced their schedule. Others are saying maybe now's not the time to go out and try to sell. Maybe it's more relationship building, more just trying to, keep in contact. So how are you guys kind of balancing that from a sports business perspective?
I think right now we're just trying to stay engaged and, keep those relationships that we have going, and checking in on our partners and our ticket holders as friends more than as I'll say salespeople. To be honest with you, we're not really selling anything right now in terms of tickets because we don't know when we're going to be able to play again. And for us, it just to put games on sale or to be selling tickets and then having to postpone those games potentially, we just felt let's hold off for now on the sales piece until we find out when the games are going to be, but really just trying to stay in contact with our corporate partners and with our season ticket holders. And for instance, we sent out a virtual copy of our yearbook, which has got some player information and articles and of course ads from our partners. So we broke up our yearbook into 3 sections, and we sent that out over the last 3 weeks to our fans, put it on social, so it helps out our partners by getting their message out to our fan base at a time when they can't come to the ballpark to normally see our partners' messages, but also keeps our season seat holders and our other ticket holders, engaged and informed about some of the guys that might be playing here eventually, either later on this season or next year. And just, again, I think give people a break from if you turn on your television and you watch the news or you go on the internet and read articles, it can be pretty, not fun and downright depressing, to be honest with you. So I think, we've kind of taken the approach of, hey, let's try to give people an outlet where they can still have fun. People come to the ballpark to have a good time and to forget about whatever problems they got going on at work or school or at home. And we've kind of taken on that same approach. Like, let's give people an outlet where they can turn to and still get a laugh, still get a chuckle, still get a smile, and still feel like, hey, still think about baseball, which is what a lot of people are missing right now.
Yeah. And no, that's a great point. And you just made me think of the Michael Jordan series that's going on, the documentary. And I'm sure you're watching it just as a sports guy, like a lot of. But it's like that, you're right, for that hour, 2 hours, it's like you're thinking back to the old days and how things were and how important sports are in our lives and everything. And you guys started a podcast too. Was that something you launched in the middle of all this, or was that something you guys had already had and just kind of supercharged, I guess, during all this, or what? How did that all come together?
Yeah, we had been talking about launching it for a long time, and when this all happened, we thought, well, now's the perfect time. We have time on our hands. People are starving for content, including us. We're still trying to churn out entertaining content for our fans on social and on our website. So I think the first one we did was the week of, I think it was 2 days after St. Patrick's Day, I think is when we did it. So it was, it was fun. It was well received, the first one we did. So we've been trying to do it every week. Nate Rowan and Josh Wetzel have been spearheading that. And they've been getting some great guests and kind of mixing in some tapes that Josh has from games that he's called over his career here with the Red Wings. Big games like playoff games and things of that nature. So it's been fun for our fans to listen to and hear from guys that either played here last year or, I know we had Marv Foley on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He was our manager back in '97 when we won the Governor's Cup, a very popular manager. So he had some great stories. He's a real colorful guy. Randy Dobnak was on our podcast last week. He had a whirlwind season. He went from single A to double A to here with the Red Wings, and then got called up to the Twins. This is a guy who's an Uber driver in the off season, and he found himself pitching against the New York Yankees in Game 2 of the playoffs last year for the Minnesota Twins. So he went from driving an Uber to playing single A ball to pitching in the playoffs last year against the Yankees, and he got married too in the middle of the season, because usually nice. He planned his wedding at the end of September, because usually the minor league season is over by the middle of September. And lo and behold, he made it all the way up to the big leagues and had to take a weekend off from the Twins because he had to go get married before the playoffs started. Cool. So a fascinating story. But anyways, the podcast has been a lot of fun. It's been well received, and again gives our fans something to think about, something to do. Right. And my wife and I have a saying throughout this whole process of, let's take a walk, something to do. Let's take the garbage cans down to the end of the driveway. It's something to do. Let's eat. Hey, something to do.
Yeah, you gotta keep moving.
Right? You gotta keep doing it.
That's kind of why we just started doing this. Things like, take advantage of the local business right down the street that can help push some messaging and content out and can keep connected with people, right? Because we're all mostly still locked in, and we're not seeing nearly as many people as we used to. Speaking of Jordan, by the way, he played baseball. I totally forgot that he did that for a while.
Yeah.
And did he ever come through Rochester? Just out of curiosity, I wouldn't know.
No, he played double A ball in Birmingham for the Birmingham Barons.
Yeah.
And so they're down in Alabama and in the Southern League, I believe. But I did see Jordan play baseball. So in spring training, we were at the time we were affiliated with the Baltimore Orioles. So our broadcast, Josh Lewin was our broadcaster at the time, and I had gone down to spring training. So we were at the White Sox facility, and in spring training, usually the major league ballpark is here, and then either right behind that or next to it is all the minor league fields where the AA team, the single A team, the AAA team all play their spring training games. So we were playing a game over at the White Sox complex and against their AAA team. And in the field right next door was Michael Jordan and the AA Birmingham Barons playing against the AA Orioles team. So Josh and I are sitting with a couple of parents from some of our players. So there was probably a crowd of about 10 watching the AAA game, spring training game, and there was about maybe 1,000 people. And spring training for the minor league field, it's really akin to a high school field in terms of its setup. There's no stands. It's just a field and dugouts, and they play baseball.
Yeah.
So to look right over here, and you could tell every time he came up, the fans were going crazy. So I may have snuck over there during our game to watch Jordan take his at bats. It was pretty cool. Cool to see him, and he towered above everybody else. At the time. Now we have some really big guys that play baseball, but back then, he was much, much taller than everybody else that was out on the field.
Yeah. And I didn't have a lot of experience in minor league baseball. I only had about a year and a half, almost 2 seasons with the Bisons way back early in my sports career. But that was the cool thing about minor league sports. You get to see some guys on their way up, see some guys on the way, tail end of their career, some guys rehabbing in the middle. So chances like that are pretty neat. And I think that's what kind of also makes minor league baseball pretty special in a lot of ways.
And spring training too you're right. I mean, you never know who you're going to see. I tell people all the time that Derek Jeter played against us at Silver Stadium in 1995, and they said, "Well, no way, he did. How come I don't know that?" I'm like, "Well, he did. He played here. Well, how come you guys didn't promote the fact that Derek Jeter was playing against you?" Well, we did, but nobody cared because Derek Jeter wasn't Derek Jeter in 1995.
Derek Jeter, exactly.
Sure. He didn't. He wasn't a star yet. To the diehard baseball fans, they knew that he was a big prospect, but not nearly to the extent that he is, today. And so many guys, literally future Hall of Famers have played against us over the years, and people don't know it. But, Cal Ripken played here in 1981 for the Red Wings. And, he went on to have an amazing Hall of Fame career. But at the time, you didn't know when he was walking up to the plate in June of 1981 that this guy was going to be in the Hall of Fame. You knew he was going to be a good player, but you didn't know he was going to be, one of the best ever.
Yeah. And for the record, by the way, I went to that game as a young kid growing up here in Penfield. And that's why I became an Orioles fan, because of the Red Wings. And then that's also why I became a Colts fan. People are always like, "Why are you a Colts fan?" I'm like, well, because, Red Wings were the farm team of the Orioles.
Yeah.
And I just happen to like the Baltimore team. So
absolutely,
you validated what I always try to tell people, that Cal Ripken was here one time and I went to the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was young, but still, it was a lot of fun. So one last question, and certainly want to respect your time, because I know in the midst you got a lot of, you're really busy with everything else you guys are trying to accomplish now. And it's awesome what you're doing in the community and everything else. But as it returns to coming back to baseball, I don't know what you can or can't share, because I'm sure you're talking about a lot of different things. But, is that a decision? What are you guys looking at maybe? Is there any kind of timeline? Are you following guidance by Major League Baseball? Are you following guidance by your own league? Can you speak a little bit to kind of what you think it's looking like, or what options might be at this moment?
Yeah, I think, it's a very complicated process, because different parts of the country have different stipulations from their elected officials and their health officials. And we're no different. Thankfully, we're going to be one of the first communities in New York State to open up. Mm-hmm. But we have to keep, vigilant and hope that, over the next month or month and a half, that things continue to progress. And if they do the way we all hope, then, we would have an opportunity to open up. But Major League Baseball, I think, has to figure out what they're going to do first. Once they figure out when they're going to return to play, then they'll let us know if and when we're going to return to play. And we're hopeful still and optimistic that we'll be able to get some games in. And I know that some of the ideas being thrown around, or even trying to schedule some games in September, after our regular season is over. So that could be a possibility of adding some more games in, because, the major leagues, the franchises, they definitely want their guys to still develop. Guys that are not playing in the major leagues, their top minor leaguers, they still want those guys to play games if they can. But again, even within our league, it's a tough situation because we have teams in many different states, in many different cities, where the virus is in a different kind of state, as it were, and different, Columbus, Ohio, I talked to our league president today, and, people are able to eat at restaurants outside now. Most of the businesses are opening up there, so we're still behind them by probably at least, 2 or 3 weeks. So it's a tricky thing because we can't have some teams in our league ready to play and other teams not being able to play. So, but we're hopeful that maybe by July that we'll be all able to open the gates and play. It's probably going to be with less people. So I don't think you're going to see any crowds of 10,000 people at Frontier Field this summer, unfortunately, but we're still hopeful that maybe we can open up at some point with limited attendance. But right now we're looking at contingency plans and what we need to do to open. But we're really going to be told, how many people we can have, and what we would need to do in order to open by our local health officials. So we're working with them and our politicians and trying to figure out what it would take to open up and trying to, get a feeling for what the new stipulations would be for venues like ours. I'm looking at I just read something about Shanghai Disney opened up, and some of the things that they're doing in their in their merchandise stores, in their ticketing lines, in their concessions, in their restrooms. So those are all kind of some of the things that we're going to have to figure out how to make it as safe as possible for our fans. We have to make it so that people are comfortable coming to the ballpark and safe, and that they're as healthy when they leave as when they walk in.
Yeah, no, good points. I guess it's fair to say, like any team, certain percentage of your fan base is going to be in that higher risk category. And I guess as they learn more and more about, how this thing works and doesn't work, it's going to be ever changing. And I think that's also what really makes it tricky, So, well, Dan, look, with that, I just wanted to, wrap. Just wanted to say, first of all, I highly respect you as an executive and a leader in Rochester and what you've accomplished with the Red Wings. And you have a cool success story intern to running the team, right? So that's for all those sports business people out there. That's really cool. So, okay. Any parting words that you want to just say, or anything else that you want to just kind of add before we go ahead and conclude the discussion today?
We miss you. We miss all the fans. Yeah. We miss opening those gates, and just rest assured that whenever we're allowed to, we're going to welcome people back, and we want to be a part of the healing process. I think it's going to be, we're all anxious to get back to some sense of normalcy, and we want to play a big role in that, however we can. And we're going to keep trying to keep people engaged. And but I hope Rochester knows how much we miss them and love them, and how much we can't wait to see them again and open those gates and welcome them back to Frontier Field.
Yeah, that's great. Well, hopefully I'll be one of the first guys there as well. And Dan, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for everything you're doing in the community. Thanks to your organization. And please stay safe and well. And I hope to see you in person next time.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
too.
Scott.
Today's episode of Freedom Biz Now is brought to you by Freedom X Sanitizer, alcohol-free and water-based. Freedom X sanitizer is lab proven to obliterate coronavirus. Find out more at freedomxsanitizer.com.